And I thought, just from all of the transactions we'd done and all of the time spent in both counties, that we were just killing it in the county to our south. When I did the numbers at the end of that year, I was floored to find out that we had closed. Welcome to the Real Estate for Real People podcast. I am Brad, and this is
Marianne,
the better half, as they know her. So we are sitting here, and it's the end of December, and we wanted to talk about something that we've been doing with all of our agents over the last couple of weeks, and that is business planning for the next year. There's a lot of reasons you would want to do business planning as somebody who's self-employed, because if you don't know your numbers, then you're going to end up in trouble because you'll be possibly spending money where you shouldn't be. You'll be focusing on lead gen where you've never been effective. But if you put that same amount of lead generation time into something else, then all of a sudden you're just blowing up. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that stuff today and the why behind the business planning. And so we'll just go from there. So first things first, what we always do with our agents is we have them look at their 2023 stats. And because we know that if we're not looking at what we've done over the year behind us, we can't really accurately project what we're doing next year.
right?
Or what we could do next year based on our activities from this last year. So we track things like how many homes they showed, how many offers they wrote, how many offers they closed,
How many open houses they did, what types of activities that they're doing with regards to past clients, pop buys or events that they hold for their clients or things like that.
Right. So we
Lead gen.
Yeah. So we track these things so that we can create some form of statistics to show the effectiveness of what they do and how they're working. And what we've come to find is that it is telling to see if, for the agents who have kept this business plan that we do year after year after year, they can look back and see the trend of their business's growth, their growth as a business owner, as a realtor. And so we're looking at the first thing that we look through as we're looking at our 2023 goals is we look through what's called a pull-through ratio. And that's very simply, we look at, for example, on the buy side, we look at how many homes they showed versus how many offers they wrote versus how many offers they closed or buyers they closed. And so, for example, if you showed 100 homes and you wrote 20 offers after you showed 100 homes, that's a 20% pull-through ratio, okay? And if you closed 20 of the offers that you wrote, that's 100% pull-through ratio. So these numbers by themselves don't necessarily mean anything, but it's important that we track them so that we can look at 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, to be able to accurately project our effectiveness moving forward.
Right.
So, and we do this on the listing side, we do this on the buy side. We look at average commission amounts, we look at average sales prices over the whole year because it gives us a way to accurately predict what the potential income is for next year,
right,
or the potential transaction count. Or let's say somebody wants to, they're tired of working with the $300,000 buyer and they don't want to necessarily have to double their production output, but they want to be able to make more money. They know that they have to start working with clientele who are buying more expensive homes. Mm-hmm. So that in and of itself is a shift in how they do their business. And so we need to make sure that we're helping them figure that out from the jump.
And I think one of the other really important pieces about business planning and looking at your stats and your data is that one of the things that we know is that one of the resources that we can never get more of is time.
True story.
And so looking at the activities that lead to those statistics and thinking through the process of, am I spending my time well in this process? Is the money that I'm putting into whatever the activity is it resulting, is there a return on investment or an ROI with that money and that time? So digging deep into those numbers and figuring out, is the newsletter that I did last year, has that resulted in any more business? It may or may not, but if you've done that newsletter consistently and your business has improved, my suggestion would probably be, don't fix it if it's not broken.
Right.
If it's something, because there are some activities that we do that it's hard to do kind of that one-to-one correspondence
Right.
between doing something and getting a sale.
Right, seeing a result.
Right. And so it's a bigger picture kind of piece. You got to have the numbers, you got to look at your activities and how you're spending your time and your money, and then making a plan from there.
I can remember the first big breakthrough with this idea that you and I had was, I think it was your second year in the business, and we hadn't opened the office yet. And we looked at the lead gen that we were doing, and we had the money basically split up for online leads for 2 counties, one county to our south and then the county we work in. And I thought, just from all of the transactions we'd done and all of the time spent in both counties, that we were just killing it in the county to our south. When I did the numbers at the end of that year, I was floored to find out that we had closed like 20, for example, in our primary county. In the county to our south, we'd closed 1. But it felt like we were super busy in that county to the south because it's a 35 or 40 minute drive down, and it's a much more populated county than ours. So it just seemed like we were down there all the time. But the trick is that we weren't closing anybody. What we were finding is that people were down there and they were realizing, man, that's really expensive. And what they end up doing is they end up closing with us in the county that we're in primarily, because it's more cost effective to live here. So
sometimes the anecdotal data that we keep or we think we're keeping in our heads is not
it kills
accurate.
us. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
getting it down on paper in black and white becomes very important to kind of weed those feelings or the assumptions out of our thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so at the end of that year, we decided that we would strip all of the money out of that county and just really for lead gen and double down on our home county. And that next year was an explosion year for our business. And it really kind of set us on a path where we could now afford to open up an office and buy a franchise and do that kind of stuff. So just that one, it only took me a couple of hours to look at the numbers and how they'd actually worked out through the year. And to have that stark realization that, man, we are pouring money into a place where I think we're crazy successful and not at all. So it was just one of those things where just that light bulb moment. So now,
but if you don't take the time and you're not disciplined, it's not, for some of us, we're not numbers people. I'm going to put myself in that category. Do I know I should want to do it more? Yes, but that's not my area of strength or passion. And so being disciplined and committed to doing this process at the end of every year, and I would say it's not just at the end of every year. We encourage and plan with our agents to go back and look at their numbers each quarter at a minimum. to see if they're on track, if they need to adjust goals, if they need to adjust activities. Kind of do this process in a mini session each quarter, because what we don't want to do is at the end of the year get all the way through 12 months and then go back and say, oh, wow, I should really have been doing things differently starting in March. Again, we only have a certain amount of time, so spend the time well. But it takes discipline and intention.
Right.
You've got to put it in the calendar, and you've got to follow through with doing it.
Yeah. One of the things we're talking about as we've been doing business planning this year is to go back and every quarter. So we're working on a book right now called The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. I think it's Moran. Anyways, so the premise of the book is very simple. You treat every quarter like it's a year, 12 weeks in a quarter, 12 months in a year. So we are basically having 4 mini years inside a year. And what that does is it gives us the ability to treat every week like it's a month. And we really get to hone down our effectiveness because we're truly looking at everything on a weekly basis to see how well we're moving forward with our goals.
Laser-like focus.
True.
That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just one of those things where, if, like you said, intentionality. And if we're not intentional with what we do, you're letting real estate happen to you on accident. Mm-hmm. And that is not the way to build a robust real estate business. On accident, you might get lucky a couple of years, mm-hmm. right? But if you really want to turn this thing into a juggernaut that is going to give you like legacy level income right. and time with your family and that kind of stuff, you have to treat this thing like it's really a business, right? Mm-hmm. So many agents that we see regularly, they treat it more like a job, right? And so for the sad part is it's not just a job, right? I mean, it is truly your own business. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that we help our folks understand that treating this thing like it's a business, not just a W-2 job, mm-hmm. it's a mindset shift.
It is.
Right? And we typically see a lot of the new agents having that problem where they get in and they treat it like it's a job, like they just came from.
I would say the other thing is that we often see folks who are in real estate as a second profession. Mm-hmm. There's a mind shift that has to happen there. Because
so do you mean a second job while they're doing real estate, or they've come out of a job and they're now doing real estate?
I would say coming out of another job or another profession and going into real estate.
So they retire as a teacher and then become a realtor.
Right.
Okay.
Or they resign as a teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
Go into real estate. But all that to say that there are a number of people that are coming from a W-2 mindset world and have been there for a long time. And so it takes intentionality to turn that around and make sure that you are not looking to somebody else to tell you what to do in your daily work and how to be successful on the hourly activity.
Right.
You have to, that's something that we teach our agents how to do that for themselves because it's your business. It right. is your legacy.
Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons that we do this is to help them understand how to set goals, mm-hmm. why we set goals, but also that just setting a goal, I want to lose 10 pounds in Q1. If you just have that as a goal, but you don't have an objective or an action plan underneath that goal, what do?
It's really a wish.
It's a wish list, right? So every goal we create with our agents, we ask them to create an objective or an action plan. So if I'm going to lose 10 pounds in quarter one, I'm going to walk 35 minutes a day and not eat more than 2,500 calories, right? Those are my 2 actions to help me hit my goal of losing 10 pounds in quarter one. And so we have to formulate every goal that we have with that action plan. So that was all part of the process for us, is to help them understand that you've got to do that or it is just like that, a wish list, right?
One of the things that I love about Realty One Group is that every year they give us a template that we use with our agents and we use for our own business to outline what activities and goals we have for the next year. And so we would love to share that with anybody else who might think that that would be helpful for them. So we'll include that in the comments for this podcast. And if you have any questions about that, our contact information will be available also. So,
Yeah.
get a hold of us.
So one of the questions that we ask, and I'm just going to read it right here, is what market trends, what market trends and changes do we anticipate happening in the next year, right? I don't know anybody that ended 2022 would have anticipated the psychotic interest rate issues we've been dealing with all of 2023. But I think there's a lot of people who are looking back at 2023 and are very hopeful for what is going to happen in 2024. But if we don't make a plan for both options, right? I mean, what could happen and what is currently happening, then we're in. So the old adage is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And so that's really the whole thing, is we've got to make sure that we help people get through these things, but we've got to look at the trends that have happened and try and figure out what's going to happen in the future. None of us have that crystal ball, so we can't accurately do it, but we can at least plan for A and B, right? So we also, we need to adapt the business plan, okay? Capitalize on opportunities, mitigate risks. And so if you do not do a business plan every year, you are absolutely flying by the seat of your pants. And so we don't want that for any of our people, for sure. And we don't suggest it for anybody, really, because it's
not good business.
No, it's not smart business at all. So anyways, you need to measure, you need to track the progress of your success, because this business can be very overwhelming. It can be very isolating if you don't work with it properly. For example, you can silo yourself as an agent if you work from home and you don't ever come into the office, and next thing you know, you're in your own head and you're spiraling down, and all of a sudden you think, I'm the only person that's failing and I'm a loser, or whatever.
Whatever that self-talk is.
Yeah. And so what we find is the people who don't engage and don't look back at their goals and don't become part of community within the office. I'm not saying you got to be here every day and work 8 hours a day in the office. That's exactly the opposite thing we want, because you're not getting new business just sitting in the office waiting for stuff to happen. You've got to be outbound looking for new business.
But we're also created for connection.
Right.
We are created for connection. And so there is power in conversation and learning what other people are doing to reach their goals, and adapting maybe some of their activities if you hadn't thought of doing whatever that is.
Right.
The other thing that I think is really important, and we focus on this with business planning with our agents, is it's not just about business that we're creating those goals. We're looking at our personal goals. We're looking at, because it's all part of a package, right? If we are not taking care of ourselves and taking care of our family, what's the point of the business? The other thing that I think is a barrier for a lot of people is a fear of failure. There is a sense that if I set a goal, I may not meet it, and therefore I fail. When we are setting goals, one of the things that we talk about is, and I'm sure everybody's heard of a SMART goal. The R in SMART can be for reasonable or relevant. And the way that I choose to deal, I don't handle failure very well.
What?
I know. Perfectionist. We're trying to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know. Rehabbing that. Working on it. Anyway, recovering perfectionist. All that to say that when I set a goal, for example, for business, the number of transactions I want to do, I'm going to make it reasonable based on what I've done in the past. But I'm also going to put next to it what I call a stretch goal. So if it is reasonable looking at my past data and looking at the trends for the new year that I would do 24 transactions or 24 sides in 2024, that would be my goal. And then my stretch goal may be, because that's 2 a month, right? So my stretch goal may be 36 because that would be 3 transactions a month. So if instead of going to the really big one of 36, that's my goal, I'm going to start with one that is much more reasonably based and then stretch it if I get to that point. It's a mindset thing. It helps me, and I think a lot of people, be able to be willing to push that much harder. Failure and fear are very funny things.
Yeah. Well, we had a number of agents this year who had their best years of their career in 2023, and to me that was
I was not one of those.
To me, that was surprising based on the interest rate scenario that we've been dealing with all
Yes.
year, right? And especially the volume of real estate that was happening during the pandemic.
Yes.
Right. So to see these people coming out, hitting their goal, and then wondering, what do I do? Right, because brand new agents to us,
right.
They hit their goal and they're like, wow, what now? And then we talked to them about a stretch goal, and they're like, oh. And it was just this little burst of, this enlightenment, like, oh, okay, what does that look like? And so just like you said, so we reset goals like in mid-year with some of our agents and said, okay, so I know your goal was X, but now let's add 8 to it and see if you can get to another 8 transactions in by the end of the year. And for a lot of people, that was really exciting. And then there was even a few of them that went past that stretch goal. And so now all of a sudden you've got this concept of personal belief, self-assurance that we're just really able to do this business well, right? And
we actually know what we're doing.
Right. Well, right. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the head space that it comes to, right? Holy smokes, I can do this job. Even though I may have been told that there's no way you're going to be successful by family or friends, or you know how hard real estate is. I mean, the reality of it is that nationally, the failure rate for realtors is 87%.
What does that mean?
87% of the people who try fail and leave the business. The average lifespan of a realtor is about 3.91 years. So, so according to NAR. So, we're working in a high dropout business, and it's not for everybody. But it could be for everybody if they want to plug in and really dive deep into how to build a business, right? It's so much more than just about the money. It's so much more than just about I can manage my own time. I run my own calendar, right? For some people, they get into real estate because they look at the people who may be successful in real estate and go, I want to drive a Maserati. I want to drive a Mercedes-Benz. I want to drive a big fancy car.
I want to be at all my kids' games.
I want to be at all my kids' games, right?
All the things, right?
And so to do that, you have to have discipline, and you can't have discipline if you don't treat your business like it's a business, right? So a couple of books that I would suggest everybody get a hold of and read. Number 1 is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Number 2 is The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran. Anyway, so just those 2 books are what I'm going to be focusing on this year to help our agents really get a hold of their business and treat it like it's a business this year. And so I would suggest that you grab those 2 books as well and read through them and realize how you may be able to shift what you're doing. Or actually, even if you're not in real estate already, but you're thinking about getting in, then those two books would help you massively moving
Yeah,
forward.
and I would say those two books will help you no matter what profession you're in.
This is true. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Very true. Yeah. We just happen to be applying it to the real estate world because that's where we are. So yeah, but that's true. I mean, they could go for anybody. Yeah, for sure. So, any last comments before we go? Do you want to tell everybody why you're wearing that thing?
Oh, he pushed me down the stairs. No, I'm just
Oh,
joking.
stop it.
I'm just joking.
Good
I'm just
grief.
joking. I had this second of 2 shoulder replacement surgeries the day before Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I'm learning how to be left-handed, which is really fun. It's good brain work because I'm right-handed, and yeah. So
Because you're typing, one-handed typing.
I've gotten really good with voice to text on my computer. Thank you, Mac. And my phone. Yes, I know I have to reread things very carefully when I do that. However, so far so good. So we're adapting. It's okay. I'm gonna have 3 more weeks in this thing, and physical therapy is great. And
Great.
great.
Meaning painful and emotionally scarring? When you, when you say that? Yeah.
So yes, but all is well. I didn't fall. Nothing like that. So, yep.
Good.
2023 was a year of being broken in a lot of ways, personally and other things. And so looking forward to having it all, working together and planning for 2024. So it's
Excellent.
going to be a great year.
It will be a
Great
good year.
year.
So we're seeing good pieces coming in the news about what is happening. Not all news is good, but a lot of the interest rate talk is heading in the right direction. We're starting to see all kinds of, the loan applications at the mortgage brokerages are up crazy amounts. So we're starting to see some life come back into our side of the business. So a lot of us are hoping that 2023 will be a year to put behind us. A lot of us thought, man, I don't want to have another year like the pandemic, right? Because of the pandemic problems. But I would take those pandemic years for real estate any day of the week. But yeah, so, this should be a great year for people who have bought a home and have a high interest rate to refinance. And for people who want to buy a home, one of the things I will suggest is that you don't wait to buy a home until rates come down to where you are. What's your phrase that you use?
Date the rate, marry the mortgage. No, date the rate, marry the house.
Marry the house. Okay. And why does she say that? Because the loan can always be refinanced and changed, but the house is going to be the house, right? You're not going to necessarily get rid of that as fast as you will a mortgage rate. So if you found the house that you want, if you wait until interest rates come down, my thought is this year, by the end of this year, you're going to be doing multiple offer battles again, because we just don't have enough inventory to meet the demand of this huge pent-up market that has been waiting all of 2023 because of the high interest rates. So do not wait. If you are able to afford the higher interest rate now, do it, because you're not going to want to have to pay the prices that houses are going to be at by the end of 2024, because they are most likely going to be going up. So anyways, that's our little tip for the day. Anything else?
Thanks for joining us today. We'll make sure that the names and the authors of those books that Brad mentioned earlier in the podcast, and a copy of a PDF copy of the business plan that we use for Realty One Group is available to you. Be sure to comment, like, and share. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you in the near future.
Talk to you later. Have a great 2023 and a prosperous 2024.